boys and girls, welcome to Everyday Math Lesson 5.3, Parallel Line Segments. The materials that you'll need today, pencil, math journal, and then either your ruler or your template. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is go over our math boxes from the previous lesson. So if you can open up your math journal to page 114. If you're noticing that you have any mistakes, please fix those with your pencil and eraser. So for the first question, our rule is plus 25. They gave us 50, but we needed to do the opposite. So we're thinking 50 minus 25 to get us to 25. Then 50 plus 25 would bring me to 75. 75 plus 25 would bring me to 100. And 100 plus 25 would bring me to 125. For question 2, Evan's running log, how many miles he ran, and then days of the week. And on which day did Evan run 8 miles? I can see that he did that on Tuesday. For question 3, which number is an odd number less than 50? So the answer you should have circled would have been B, 37. For question 4, solve. 8 plus 6 equals 14. The unit I chose today were eggs. And then for my turnaround fact, I would have 6 plus 8 equals 14. For question 5, the time is 2:30, and in 15 minutes it will be 2:45. For question 6, 12 red jelly beans, 16 green jelly beans. How many more green jelly beans? So we have our 16 and our 12, so we're solving 16 minus 12, which equals 4. So our answer would be 4 more green jelly beans. So double check to make sure you have your page correct before moving on. So for this first one, just listen and think about the answer that think about the question that I'm asking. So think of the lines printed on a sheet of notebook paper. Imagine that the lines could go on forever. So if I'm looking at these two blue lines, do you think the lines would ever meet? And you should have said no. The blue lines, they are not going to meet, and the reason why is because they are parallel. So here are some other objects that have some parallel lines. Notice how the opposite lines, if they keep continuing, they would not meet. And you can see on the door has an example of some parallel lines, the cabinet, railroad tracks. The lines are never going to meet. So today we're going to do quite a bit in our math journal. So we'll start out with talking about page 115. There isn't anything you need to write down on this page. I just want you to listen as I read this page to you. So these line segments are all parallel. Notice how if they kept continuing, they would not meet. They would not cross or intersect. These line segments are not parallel because if they continued, they eventually would bump into each other. They eventually would meet or intersect. Another word that we're going to be talking about today is quadrangle or quadrilateral. And so these polygons, polygon is another name for a shape. These polygons are quadrangles, and notice how all of them have 4 sides. So we have our square, rectangle, parallelogram, rhombus, trapezoid, and kite. These are all polygons that have 4 sides. So on the first page, if we're looking at page 116, we're going to need to use our straight edge. So either a ruler or a template. And it's going to ask us to draw line segments A, B, and C, D. So just like what we did in our previous lesson with the codes, when they're asking us to draw a line segment, you need to connect those lines. So I'm going to do this first one with you, just so that you're understanding what to do in this. So I would take my template and I'm going to line up my A and B, and then with my pencil, I'm going to very carefully draw that line from A to B, just like that. So then it's going to ask you to do the same thing with line segments CD. And then answer the question, are they parallel? And then draw line segments EF. And then answer the question again, are line segments A, B, and EF parallel? So can you try questions just 1 and 2? press pause, and then play when you're ready to check just 1 and 2. All right, second graders, so we already did A, B together, and then we needed to do C, D just like that. Now, are those two line segments parallel? You should have said yes, they will not touch. Then you needed to draw line segment EF. Now, is EF parallel to AB? And again, you would have said yes, because those line segments will not touch. Now let's take a look at question number 3. It's asking us to draw a line segment LM and then draw a line segment that's parallel to line segment LM and label that RS. So your RS line segment might look different than my RS, and that's okay as long as it's parallel. Then the other thing that you're going to do is draw a line segment that's not parallel to line segment LM and label it TU. Can you give 3, 4, and 5 a try and then press play when you're ready to check just 3, 4, and 5? All right, second graders. So I'm going to reveal my whole box and I'm going to talk about each part of it. So first thing I needed to do is draw that line segment LM, which you should have the same thing as me for LM. Then draw a line segment that's parallel to LM and label it RS. So I chose to draw my RS over here. You maybe chose someplace different, and that's okay, just as long as they are the same distance apart, showing that they are not going to meet, that they are parallel. And then drawing TU. Now again, your TU might look different, and that's okay, but notice how if TU kept on going, it would bump into LM. So TU is not parallel to LM. So can you double check your RS to make sure it's parallel and to make sure that TU is not parallel? Let's look at our last question. Let's look at the try this. The try this says draw a quadrangle. Now a quadrangle we know has 4 sides that has no parallel sides. Let's see what you can come up with and then press play when you're ready to check with me. All right, second graders, this is a little bit of a trickier question, but take a look at how my figure that I drew has 4 sides, and then see how all of the sides, none of them are parallel. So the top and the bottom, if they kept going, they eventually would meet. And same thing with the sides, they are not parallel. So yours might look something like mine. All right, now let's take a look at page 117. Draw a quadrangle in which the opposite sides are parallel. So can you draw a 4-sided figure and have your opposite sides parallel? Press pause and then play when you're ready to check. All right, I'll show you mine for number 7. So you didn't have to have the exact same, but I drew a rectangle. Notice how it has 4 sides and the opposite sides are parallel. You maybe also made like a square, but just check to make sure that your sides are parallel. For question 8, draw a quadrangle in which all 4 sides are the same length. And then what is another name for this shape? What would you call that shape? Press pause and then play to check number 8. All right, there's really only one answer for this one, and you should have had a square. Now your square could be a smaller version than mine, that's okay, but it needed to be a square where all 4 sides are the same length. The last question, draw a quadrangle in which 2 opposite sides are parallel and the other 2 opposites are not parallel. Let's see what you can come up with. Press pause and then play when you're ready to check. All right, second graders, for this one, I made a trapezoid because notice how the top and the bottom are parallel. If those continued, they would not meet. But look at the sides. The sides are not parallel because if they continued, they eventually would meet or intersect. All right, second graders, we'll talk more about parallel line segments in future lessons. But the last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to talk about math boxes. So if you can open up your math journal to page 119. So I'll talk about the directions. When you're all done, I'll ask that you take a picture and add that to Seesaw for your classroom teacher, and we'll go over this page in our next video. So for question 1, use the digits 1, 3, and 5 to make the smallest number possible and the largest number possible. For question 2, on which day did Ms. Forby's class have the most recess minutes? How many in all, looking at your base 10 blocks? Complete the number grid for number 4. For question 5, draw a square, but make sure that each side is 3 centimeters long. So you're going to need your ruler or your template for this question. And then for question 6, graph this data. On Tuesday, it was 20 degrees Celsius. On Wednesday, it was 35 degrees Celsius. And on Thursday, it was 30 degrees Celsius. All right, I will see you next time.